Hello, folks, and welcome to Leaky Weekly, the show where we cover the last week or so in cybercrime current events. I'm your host, Nick Ascoli. Today, we have a very special guest, our very own Tammy Harper, who is a senior threat intelligence researcher on Flare's threat intelligence research team. And here's part 3 of my conversation with Tammy on the state of ransomware. Now, there's 2 important announcements to make before we get started. One is we have a Discord now. The Flare Academy has a Discord. This is a place where students and security professionals alike can join and keep up with evolving threats, keep up with what's going on in the dark web and the cybercrime world and in the world of ransomware. We share intelligence in there. We talk with each other. It's a very active community. And it's also where we share free versions of our Flare Academy trainings, which are our totally free cybercrime and threat intelligence training series. Tammy has taught many of them. I've taught several courses. Tammy, you have one coming up. Tammy is an amazing teacher, and you will definitely benefit from the Flare Academy Discord and the courses. So please check them out at flare.io/trainings. You can get to the trainings from there. You can also get to the Discord from there. Let's talk a little bit about operations. There was one notable one, Operation Kronos, which took down LockBit's infrastructure. At least beyond the, what you can read in the headlines about the takedown itself, were there any lasting impressions? Like, did it cause a mess in the actual ransomware communities?
Absolutely, it did. LockBit at its peak was rumored to have around 100 affiliates, active affiliates running operations. And it hurt their reputation so badly that it just completely fell off a cliff. LockBit was posting tens of victims a day at its peak. And now it's lucky if you get 1 or 2 posts a month type of thing. And what's interesting is during Operation Kronos specifically, one of the biggest things that impacted its reputation, or LockBit's reputation, was that when you paid the ransom, you were given a guarantee that your data was deleted and that it was not going to be distributed. That was a lie. The data was actually still on their infrastructure and it was still there. It's all built on trust, and you have to trust that they're going to delete the data, and sometimes they don't delete the data. And LockBit showed that they were taking the money and they were not fulfilling their obligations in terms of deleting the data. Another thing also that we saw with LockBit is when you have threat actors that are sanctioned, because sometimes you cannot make payments to sanctioned groups and parties. So I'm talking specifically about Evil Corp here. When you get affiliated with sanctioned entities, it makes it even harder. So to be able to operate under that brand, because people become very wary of paying and being tied up in that legal mess of paying and contributing to and money laundering and stuff like that with sanctioned entities. So after seeing the massive fall of LockBit and like in terms of posting, there's definitely been more, like, this is why we saw an explosion of new groups trying to fill that void in, and Ransom Hub back in the day was the one to do it. They took in a lot of LockBit affiliates and AlphaV affiliates, because when those two fell relatively at the same time, Ransom Hub is where everyone went. So when LockBit was trying to curtail the bleeding of its affiliates, it even dropped the price of its affiliate program. It's even the negotiations. Recently, LockBit's chats from the panel leaked, and this was from the auto registration panel that LockBit is running, and we saw these payments were very, very small. They were taking in tens of thousands of dollars versus the hundreds of thousands, millions of dollars that they were originally asking at their peak. Now their affiliates are just taking whatever they can get at this point in terms of ransom from the LockBit brand. The brand has been tarnished for sure. It's not what it used to be. And even though the infrastructure is there's definitely money behind it to paying the bills and running all those websites. It takes quite an operation to do that. the brand has been tarnished. And especially now with the recent leak of its affiliate panels, like I want to see like what's going to happen to its reputation even further. Like it's really interesting to see that how do you attack LockBit? It was because it was all built on reputation. You attack its reputation, you attack the reputation, and what I also found out was that there was a statistic, I forget which researcher pointed this out, but there was a statistic that only 7% of the chats in the negotiation were actually ended up making payments. So for LockBit, the success rate for successful extortion is around 7%, which is very, very low. And these payments were also very, very small payments, tens of thousands of dollars. So this is definitely now one of like completely fell off a cliff.
That's really interesting. There were a number of notable, not only cross posts between groups, but lots and lots of reposts. And maybe those are the same thing, and you can educate me, but it seemed like there were lots of old victim obvious reposts, and then a couple like cross posts that seemed like they were happening at the same time of potentially new victims. What is going on there? Why was that happening?
This has two parts to that, multiple parts. This is a really interesting question. So in 2024, and also 2023 is when we really started to see like cross-posting becoming a thing. You have to wonder, why is that happening? So one of the reasons this is happening is the initial access was sold to more than one party. So what ended up happening was someone purchased the access or found the access through Stealer logs and leveraged it. It worked. They were able to conduct their campaign, do whatever they had to do, and then someone else went in a little later and conducted their own operation. And because the credentials were still functional, you had two completely independent groups conduct this, hit the same victim in a similar window. Now, if you're just like browsing, because a lot of how Stealer logs are distributed is via Telegram and through like a feed type of mechanism. So if you're downloading these feeds, this like multiple people would basically have the same information at the same time. So this is how a lot of the big operations get their initial access, is from like these automated feeds. But also they have they also pay initial access brokers for exclusivity on specific access, especially if it's like high profile, like high potential for return, or like a return on investment type of thing. So like this is a really big company with very little protections. So this would be very lucrative. So they would pay for something like that. Now, if that initial access broker wants to double dip and sells that same access to someone else, then you have two competing groups within the same environment. So that's one way to say it, that cross-posting can happen. And this is one of the ways that we saw it happen in 2024. Also, what can also happen is a group, because these are affiliate programs, and it's also interesting to see which group to which group they get posted, because sometimes you'll see it move from an affiliate group, so a RAS to a RAS, and then you have an idea of like what's going on behind the scenes. So for example, another reason you can see cross-posting is an affiliate can conduct an operation under one brand and have no luck extorting the victim under that brand, and then they will move to another group that has more favorable splits. A split is how ransom payments are made. So for example, nowadays the going rate is 80-20. 80% goes to the affiliate, 20% goes to the operators of the ransomware operation. So sometimes they'll move from one group to another. They'll move their victim from one group to the other, and then they'll get posted on both sides. So that's another way that cross-posting can happen. And then we have the third way cross-posting can happen. And this is what we started to see more of in 2025. And with the rise really of, and now it's died out. It lasted a couple of months, but it was really the rise of the, I call them the scam RAS explosion, which we had JD LockerSec, we had Babook Bijorka or Babook 2.0 Locker, and right now we're seeing a little bit of Satan Locker as well. So all of these things, these groups basically just reposting a tremendous amount of victims, and they have actually no true claim to this data set. They're just trying to, they probably even picked up public data and are trying to sell it again, and hoping that they make enough noise and someone pays them, or they can scam someone in the process and make money off of publicly available data. Now, so it's really interesting to see all these cross-posting and how it evolved, but it's also interesting to see that in 2023 and in 2024, end of 2024, but specifically 2023 and 2024, there were a few really high-profile initial access brokers, and one that comes to mind was Broker, and Broker was a really high-profile a reseller and was really, really prominent in the scene. And how many threat actors actually leveraged someone like that is one of the questions that we can answer at some point.
Super interesting for several reasons. One is it kind of highlights the increasing maybe like debauchery or scamminess of the ransomware world already in bustling criminal underground, where first you had like ransomware, which was just lock systems, pay me, I unlock. Then, double extortion, lock systems, pay me, I unlock. Also, I stole a bunch of data, so I will release it if you don't pay me. And then triple extortion, I'm going to tell the people affected by the data or regulators or whatever. And then extortion without the ransomware. It's like the ransomware without the ware part, just stealing data, holding it for holding the data alone for ransom without locking anything down. And now people are taking the stolen data from an extortion or ransomware operation and holding that for ransom, even though they didn't even steal it. It's like, I don't even know what to call that. It's like a fourth or fifth layer of attempted extortion. There's got to be a funny term for it that can be coined.
It's just the repacking scene, and it's how data gets repackaged and recycled over and over and over again. But what we're also seeing is there is no honor among thieves and criminals, but there sort of is. There's at least a code. And I'm talking about like this code that was there with Revil, this code that was there with Conti, and that was this code that was there with LockBit, and of how to conduct the business and how to conduct how to be a good RAS, even though that's a bad thing. But now we're seeing with the advent of like AI and the advent of all of these, like this explosion of like groups, like these low effort groups, right? These low like threat groups. We're seeing more and more people get into it for a very short time, making a name for it. And it's really just for the attention. And it's really just, a lot of it is noise now. We're seeing more and more noise. Like it's just, everything's getting recycled. Everything. One of the really prominent groups right now that have this code is like, for example, that we're seeing is like Dragon Force, even though there's a bit of fighting right now with allegations that they're part of Russian federal state. And Killin also has this code where they can conduct business and keep their affiliates in line and have this sort of like quality assessment and this quality level of when it comes to their extortion. Even though it's a terrible thing that they're doing, it's really interesting to see that some groups have just absolutely no regard for what they're posting, how they're conducting their data, or how they're assessing anything. So things are changing, and I think as time will go, I think you'll have less and less of these code-oriented threat actors, and like you're gonna see more and more like noisy groups. And I think this is just the nature of how the beast goes. As the old guard starts to retire, like the Conti and team starts to retire out and buy out, and because it takes a beating out of your mental state to constantly be on the run, and this level of paranoia that these threat actors face sometimes, even if they're in non-extradition states and countries, they still have to pay some hands in their own countries to be able to operate, and no one's completely like safe. Like look at Wazawaka was arrested and charged in Russia for hacking crimes. So not everyone is safe, right? We're seeing definitely this like wash right now of like new groups and things like that. So very interesting to see where things go.
I agree, and I think your prediction is right. And the spamification of the repacking scene is getting messy. We'll cover the rest of me and Tammy's conversation on ransomware in the next episode, so we will see you there. Today's show was brought to you by Flare, the world's easiest to use and most comprehensive cybercrime dataset that integrates in your security program in 30 minutes. If you're interested in learning more and staying ahead of cybercrime, you can check out Flare's Academy. It's our free online cybersecurity training program that also comes with a very, very fun and cool Discord where people chat about this kind of stuff. Attending the trainings also gets you a CPE credit, so it's very worth it, and you'll learn a thing or two that I promise will be fun and interesting. To sign up for the next training, go to the description of this episode, and it should be pasted there, or go to flare.io/trainings.
I'm also in the Flare Academy Discord on Fridays at 12:30 to 1:30 Eastern for TI Fridays, where we discuss the latest information and take a little bit of a review, and it's very casual. Come join us.